This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation.
As I said, it's a litmus test for a number of leaders on a number of different issues. But there's one man who did appear on my crystal ball, and I want to discuss him because he can't be overlooked, yet at the same time he can be, overlooked. He's a safe pair of hands, yet he's known to be spineless and weak-kneed. He was Prime Minister, or rather Deputy Prime Minister in 2008, right up to 2012. And of course, he's been Deputy President as well. Can he bring the Luyas together and run for president? It's the man I'm talking about, of course, is Musalia Mudavadi. Now, with him, he's been viewed as a safe pair of hands. You had Kibaki's cabinet kitchen, and of course, this is all speculative. They wanted to make him president after Kibaki because he was a safe pair of hands. He would look after interests of those that are, or interests of tycoons and so on. But this was fought against very strongly when Uhuru was also running his campaign then. But if you all remember, Uhuru had initially resigned. So it's somebody who has the backing of the powers that be, let's be honest. And I think one of the factors to consider is there's really nobody viable at the moment other than him. So that really puts him in strong stead, believe it or not. Other than him and Ruto, when you look at the leaders that we have in terms of presidency, there's really nobody else. And if you look at his stance at the moment, he's beginning to speak up a little bit, talking against corruption. Of course, he's got also his candidate in Kibra, which again is a litmus test. Let's look at what sort of backing he would have. One would, if you were really to look at what he's doing in Kibra, it's a fantastic move. Initially, I thought, well, you're breaking up ODM. Maybe you shouldn't have put a candidate. You're breaking up NASA, rather, because Jubilee has gone in as the coalition, or as Jubilee, which is one party. Of course, the coalition, the NASA coalition, with ANC fronting a candidate, they actually split a few votes, very few. But what he's doing is standing up as the leader of the Luyas, which nobody else has thought to do, because we've always said the Luyas are a huge voting bloc, but they cannot coalesce around one leader. So I believe the purpose he's serving by fronting Awalo is to stand up and say, I am the Luya leader. Now, if he can do that and get Luyas to coalesce around him, as I said, he's got the backing of some elite. We saw that was evinced in 2013. So with that comes, extra money for your campaigns, and then, bring in more people. So you've got the Luya vote, you've got some of the Kikuyu vote. If he gets Tosha from Baba, which is very possible if we're looking to beat Ruto, if Ruto is the enemy of Baba, let's say. So you can see how this man can be president, and that's what my crystal ball is telling me. Mudavadi 2022 as president.
Yet he's already getting, that still some noise from that pesky little fly, if you may call it. Still looking at Western politics, Moses Wetangula is not letting go.
Does Moses? Okay, let's look at Kibra.
He saw ANC going to Kibra, and he also went to Kibra. So Ford Kenya has a candidate in Kibra as well, going for the Luya vote in Kibra constituency. So there's still some challenge domestically, even if you look at it that way.
Absolutely, I agree, and I guess this is where I say, the Luyas. And I don't want to sound politically incorrect, but yes, Luya unity is a myth. It is just that, considering there's such a big voting bloc. But I think this man can bring them together if he runs for presidency. It can be another Kijana Wamalwa occasion where they all coalesced around one leader and managed to get their man in, so to speak. The problem with Mudavadi is a little lackluster. He's and this is not coming just from myself, it's a general sentiment. It's a paradox, because people like him for his calmness. He's a safe pair of hands, as people have said previously. Some argue, or some suggest that he's malleable and will listen to the powers that be, and that's why they want him there. But in the same breath, that could also be viewed as spineless. Where are these balls? Speak up. Mudavadi has a very good opportunity at the moment. There's currently no opposition in the country. He could stand up and be the opposition and start, pointing out the holes within government as we know it. And that would give him some of ODM supporters, some of Raila's supporters. We had quite a few people who were very bitter at the handshake from the ODM side. So that would give him some of those supporters. You would also get the anti-Raila supporters from Central coming to Mudavadi, because there's some people who are also bitter that, there's been the handshake. And this is purely from emotive reasons. This is how a lot of people reason out even when voting. So I think Mudavadi is not doing as well as he could. And that could be, down to the fact that perhaps he's slightly faint-hearted, which he's been known for, maybe a little too diplomatic, a little too polished around the edges. He's not a rough politician. He doesn't know how to get into the muddy waters and, sling mud at one another. He plays it very safe. He's a gentleman.
What does he stand for?
And this works against him. When he's speaking, he's been in the US in the last week, and he's gotten quite a lot of press, considering, which makes you think, very interesting. Who's pushing all this? Who's working behind him? For us to be reading about him in the States and in the press, there's a lot of politicians, of course, at the moment in America with the UNGA, with the General Assembly happening. But they're not getting the coverage that he did. He was actually on mainstream TV. There's an article about him in the paper. What is going on? And what he's talking about is the fight against corruption, which of course resonates with everybody. But I think he's going about it the wrong way. What he should be doing is still highlighting cases of corruption that are going on in government, because I'm sure they are.
He should be whistleblowing.
Our focus, absolutely, our focus has been on the fight against corruption, which is brilliant. But that's not to say that there aren't any inconsistencies and there's nothing that he should be pointing out as opposition. He needs to grab this mantle as opposition. He needs to come out, be more outspoken, and stop being too diplomatic. This is Kenya politics is not what he's been sort of trained to do. And then, of course, there's those who argue he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth as well. He came, I think he was a minister at 29.
He got into politics in his 20s.
Absolutely. So in terms of experience, he's very well experienced. Absolutely. He's a seasoned politician, I would say. But why does he not have this sort of va-va-voom, this X factor?
So there you go. So all those years in politics, and you're still finding it hard to place him, to define him.
I don't think it's difficult to define. But what I'm wondering is, I heard the list of people that Njeri has mentioned as possible presidential candidates. I didn't hear the name Raila in it. Why?
I think Raila might endorse him, actually.
So Raila not vying?
I don't see Raila vying. I see him maybe endorsing. That's this week. The crystal ball might change.
No, I understand what the crystal... that's why I'm not even...
It's raining in the ball.
No, it's understandable.
It's a mist in the ball today.
Because how old was Kibaki when he became president?
Was it 78? Something.
He was in his 70s. Let's say he was in 70s, because we were told he was born in 1931. How old was Raila?
But you're suggesting Raila won't vie because of his age.
You're the one who's bringing in age here, by the way.
But of course I'm the one who's bringing in age.
Why?
The reason is
suggesting he wouldn't vie because of his age, or would vote because of his age.
Because every time you have naysayers who feel Raila shouldn't vie, the age factor always takes the forefront. Always. He should retire. He's old. Okay, and I'm actually trying to make the point here that this is politics. There is nothing like a retirement age as such.
Well, my crystal ball today tells me that Raila won't run in 2022.
He did endorse Musalia.
I think
he will endorse Musalia.
I think we've seen Musalia, yes, definitely a state's gentleman, and he is very diplomatic in his ways. Unfortunately, most recently, he's been under the shadow of the same Raila Odinga that we're talking about for quite a while.
Let me ask you something.
Under the umbrella of
these
his
wonderful
kind of
qualities
leadership
that you say Mudavadi has, and he does.
They're
have
also
them.
his Achilles heel.
Yes,
in terms
they're
of
also the problems that he
arena.
faces.
What
now,
are the qualities that people look for in a presidential candidate in this country? These qualities you're talking about? Gentle, nice, polite. Are these the qualities people look for in a president in this country?
are they?
I think if pitted up against authoritarian,
and being able to,
people
make
will
a statement, and when you speak,
they like the likability.
People will listen to you.
And
like I said, even for him at this state, he's been most recently under the shadow of Raila Odinga quite a lot, and that's very clear. If we have now he standing up, people are going to kind of wonder whose voice are we really listening to?
Why do you say he's been under Raila's shadow?
Because he has.
No.
Yeah.
Is Raila under Uhuru's shadow?
No, but you can see the difference in character.
Right
it's
now,
very
you can see
clear.
we're talking about taming.
You can see the difference in character, and it's very clear between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has always stood. He's always stood, and when he has stood, it has been clear on what he's standing upon. Now, for Mudavadi, you're not really sure where he was, whether here or not there. So now, if you put him in a position where he wants to stand for president, people are not going to really be sure. From what I see, whether they're going to be, is he believable as somebody who would be authoritarian?
And the way he got played also in 2013, really. I mean, you're there.
He wasn't played. There's some resistance to him.
So
he was played.
So there
he
was
was
two
played by
factions.
some resistance
Even his
factions.
own
No.
people-
Njeri is calling it resistance, but he was played. The playing he was played is called resistance.
The
right,
fact that
Njeri?
he was the one who was chosen to be played
So at
is
some-
significant.
At some point, you've been brought to the table and told, okay, now here, and then the people who actually go against you, and next you're hearing
But
that.
the fact that it was him that was brought to the
Why
table
not somebody
speaks
else?
volumes. It could have been
Yes.
anybody else in
And
a Kenya of 6
and they
million.
could not have played somebody else. There are people
And
that
I
could
think
not have played.
those characteristics, we are not. It's
He
very
wasn't
clear
being
that.
played. People are allowed to change their
Yeah,
minds.
and those characteristics,
Yeah,
it's
that's
very
called being
clear.
played.
It's
It
very
doesn't
clear that
happen.
we are not the only ones who
That's why
see
you
those
play someone.
characteristics that he has. Definitely, it's easier to be on top of someone who doesn't speak up as much, or somebody who doesn't,
It is easier to
let
appear.
their
Appear.
authority or let
Appear.
the authority come to the fore, or be very vivid
Look.
in terms of what it is
Look,
that
let
they are
me
pushing, or which
look,
kind of agendas
look.
that they are pushing. It's easier. It's easier.
We've had this discussion in this forum before, where there has been the subject of how much power does the deputy president actually have in his neck of the woods. If you were to go by what you see in the papers every day and what you hear, you'd think the man has an iron grip. The reality on the ground may actually be very different.
Well, I think so, but we've talked about him being extremely clever because he has seen what would be able to work. He has seen how
Yes.
it is that you'll be having conversations about him, whether you like him or not,
It
whether there are
is very
people who
true.
like him or not.
It is very true.
And he's been able to manipulate that.
And the history of this country is also replete with really clever people who vied for the same seat as he did, even cleverer, and didn't get it. You know, it's just one seat. One.
The alliance, yes. But
So
the
only
li-
one person gets it at a time.
The alliances
But-
that he made and the alignments that he brokered also were very critical in now him being able to cement his position in the ways in which we see it playing out today.
In the way he thought it would cement his position.
In the way, yeah. However,
I-
if
I-
you're just
the
looking at it
process-
from the
the
optics
process
of it,
of trying
it's very
to cement
clear.
that position again guarantees that you set other issues into play. You bring other issues into play in that same arena.
Which ones?
You bring in people. Let us, for purposes of discussion, just theoretically, I am informed that he had a big say in the number of the people, the individuals who actually became MPs in central Kenya, because somehow he had been given the mantle. I am informed. If you take that view, and this is politics, it means there are many other people who are also offended in that process. And these are politicians. And these people don't retire. Neither do they sit back and wait.
They wait for their day in court.
Yes, exactly.
As it were.
So in garnering and getting into a certain position, you then set in play something that could easily work against you. Easily. And in fact, if you did it well, it means what you set in motion that could work against you is even stronger than you would have yourself liked. And some of these people will not forgive you.
So is Mudavadi viable?
No.
That is the question we're asking.
Of course
the
he's
audience
viable.
today.
This is politics. He is extremely viable.
And interestingly enough, he's also.
Are you just saying
calling
he's
for-
extremely viable just because he's a Kenyan like any other Kenyan?
No.
Or are you saying he's
President Kibaki had a track record for being a wonderful bureaucrat. Impeccable record working at Makerere. Look at the opportunity. He had a job, good job. Then you're being told to come and work for KANU. The colonial government didn't particularly like KANU. They preferred KADU. Okay, that's why it was set up even in the first place. But he took the chance. Now, Kibaki wasn't known to be an orator. He wasn't known to be someone, a firebrand. He never was. But he made a wonderful president.
Why?
And was very well liked.
Yes, he was liked, and it's interesting.
But
that
whatever
when-
it is well liked.
Yes, but when
So
he
are there
took a
similarities
position,
you're
when he
thinking
took
with
a
I
Mudavadi
am
position,
trying to
and
explain
Kibaki?
that the qualities you're speaking about, the fact that someone is amiable and seems pleasant and smiles, doesn't mean that he doesn't have a critical, sharp mind that could actually do what is required to be done when the need is there. That's what I'm trying to
But
tell
his
you.
And you're
expression,
giving
but
the
his
example
expression
of Kibaki.
but his
Prior-
expression of
prior
the
to the
same is
accident,
actually
Kibaki
quite different.
was a good orator. Kibaki could express himself in
And I think it
Swahili
was
very,
clear that
very
when
well.
Kibaki
Mudavadi can also
spoke,
express
no,
himself.
but when Kibaki spoke and said something or laid a position, people listened and they were clear about what he's saying. Unfortunately, we can't see the same thing with Mudavadi.
No, say you can't see. I can.
I can't see the same thing with Mudavadi.
So ask me to.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
don't
I can't
always.
see.
Sometimes
I am
see,
not
sometimes I don't.
convinced. I am
It's
not
flip-floppy.
convinced about his position.
You see,
I am
the
not
thing is with
convinced.
Mudavadi, he's
I'm not
sat
convinced
between a
about
rock and a
his
hard place.
authority.
Yes.
I'm not convinced about his authority.
With
I am not.
Mudavadi, he's sat between a rock and a hard place. He is part of the establishment. And with establishment...
What's
I
that?
mean-
Dynasties?
You could call it that, the dynasties, but part of the establishment, and he understands power. So he's also very careful and very sort of treads on very, very gently when he's looking to criticize, and this is his problem.
The danger about
Well,
that is that you'll be
is-
overtook then. Yeah.
Absolutely, but he should learn from Raila. You can criticize and still belong. You can come back together. You won't be written off altogether.
You can say
So he needs
what I'm
to-
saying out there. what I'm
but
saying
now
in
you're
here is
discussing
different.
personality.
He doesn't.
So that's it. But it's about
But isn't
personality.
it? But
Yes.
haven't we said many
This is
times
a
it is
situation
about
room.
Yes.
personality?
Kenya's
Now-
biggest conversation. I want to open up the phone lines after this commercial break. 0719 012 That's 0719 012 Njeri Thorne's crystal ball this morning is showing her that Musalia Mudavadi is a viable candidate for 2022.
Is the candidate.
He's a safe pair of hands. He's going to get endorsement from Raila Odinga. What do you think?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.